P. Market.
Hey, it's Brent Leary, or should I say, I'm Brent Leary.
And yeah, I almost was gonna hang up saying, "Oh my God, we have an imposter," and I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and all of a sudden, I feel like my name is not Brent Leary; it's I'm Brent Leary because I just say that so much. I'm starting to think my name is actually I'm Brent Leary.
Unless you're Don, I miss Brent Leary.
No, that'll never be the
No,
case.
no,
That
that sure
will
wouldn't.
never be the
Well,
case.
thank God he's not around anymore.
And on that cheery note, welcome to
Yep.
another
Hi,
fun-filled
everybody!
edition of
Yay!
CRM Players.
Yay! We're so happy.
Yes, it's another Blur's Day, whatever
Yes, it
that
is.
means. And for the let's see, what the 899,000th consecutive week, we're
Hmm.
doing another show. I mean, remember before the pandemic, nobody knew when we were doing these shows because we didn't know when we were doing these shows. And now we've like every Thursday, it's like clockwork.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. Back then, you remember how we did it? It was like you would message me on Facebook and say, "Hey, you want to do a show today?" And I'd say, "Yeah, that's a good idea. What do you want to talk about?" And then we'd figure out something and do the show. Now we have like clockwork. The only thing we're still wondering is what do we want to talk about? Right? We're still
Yes,
not right. That's the part.
yes.
Oh,
And I will admit to El Nicole, I've always wanted like I wish my name was not Brent, the first name Brent. I should have had like a one of those weird first names like Josephus Brent Leary, because then I go by J. Brent Leary. Yeah,
wow.
not
Yeah.
not not that El Nicole's first name is as terrible sounding as Josephus, but she does go by her middle name and has her first initial. I think that's kind of cool. I like El Nicole.
Me too. Although it makes me, as you often heard me say, think of El Cid,
You
who
know.
was like an 8th century Moorish hero in Spain.
Wow. It's better to be a
Yeah.
Moorish hero than a lessish hero. So we got that. All right. So, and we got to say hello to our buddy Ed McMahon. Hello.
Oh, hey Sven, how you
It
doing,
is
buddy?
Sven. Does Sven know that heyo is that's isn't that how Ed McMahon heyo was that
Hey,
him?
yeah, that was him, Johnny Carson. I don't think Sven knows.
Well,
Yeah.
Sven, funny you should ask about the band contest.
Wow, this really is Ed McMahon.
Wait a minute.
Sven is
He's work they're work. Wait a minute. Did you even know that Thunderhead was
no.
working?
Yes, I did. Actually, I did. I did.
I was going to say Sven is over here scooping us on our own stuff. I mean, that's pretty good.
No, no, we're good. We're still L. Brent Leary. No, doesn't
It
work,
just
Tom.
doesn't work. I'm
No,
sorry, man.
J. Brent Leary does actually work. J. Brent Leary.
JB,
That's like right.
I thought and JBL too. I like that.
Ooh, but then you're named after like a speaker, literally.
Well, speaker money.
That's an inside joke. Everyone who wasn't watching anything yesterday.
Oh, but if you want to get the scoop on this inside joke, because I literally just posted the video from yesterday. I originally had envisioned I do watch an Amazon with my good friend, the cold one, the bold one, John Coderice Lawson. Now he's known as Speaker Money, but you have to watch the video
Well, it's
to
actually
find that
the
out.
bold one, the cold one, the expensive one, John Lawson.
Yeah, it's gonna get pretty expensive for him once he gets a hold of that A10 mini that you're sending him over.
Yeah. Soon, though.
but but if you want to go know the inside joke, this is serious stuff here. We did. No, how could I even?
Right.
All right, it's not that serious. It's not that serious.
Not the slightest.
So yesterday on the Watching Amazon show, my buddy Paul Greenberg joined us as a special guest to do something very nice for my Watching Amazon co-host John Coderice. Well, I got to say the cold one, the bold one. I'm legally, I have to say the cold one, the bold one whenever I say his name. It's in my contract. It's in fine print. So you came on to do something very nice for him. And what was supposed to end up being like a little 5-minute, hey, nice surprise, little piece, ended up being basically a third of the show. So it's like a 22-minute thing. And it really turned out to be a perfect mashup of Watching Amazon and CRM Players. And because of that, I took that whole segment and I posted it into the CRM Playaz group. So if you really want to know the insides, why we're laughing and when his speaker money made us both sniggle, you're going to have to watch that clip. And if you want to watch that clip, that means you're going to have to join the CRM Playaz group here on LinkedIn. So
yeah, which is
that's kind of conniving, isn't it? Isn't it kind of like
a real ploy on our part?
We're not really that devious, but I guess we are.
This is the attention economy. You give us your attention and join the group, we'll show you something that was really pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. And we hope you think so, but of course that means you have to join the group to do that.
You let us know. Just let us know.
Hey, what about a quick update since Sven was asking a little quick? Do we have any updates on the band? I mean, it's pretty much the same as okay. What do we got?
Right now, so all the bands are beginning to figure out what they want to do, actually, and we're starting to see genres come in, and we're starting to see their song choices come in, and
I thought I threw that.
Meet the Mets, step right up and beat the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wives, guaranteed to have the time of your life. I'll sing the rest of it to you tomorrow, Alan. Anyway, they're starting to come up with the genres, and I'm not going to reveal them until all of them are in, but it's really interesting, the song choices. They're sort of not surprising, but a little bit maybe. That's all I can say. We have, as Sven aptly pointed out, Thunderhead's working on seeing if they can provide us with a band, but we do have 13 bands right now. They're ready to roll, all locked and loaded. And you will see a lot of, in the not too distant future, a lot of public things about BYOB 2020. So just stay tuned. And actually, the first people who will find out will be in the CRM Playaz community on LinkedIn.
Okay, so getting caught up on some of the comments here. So apparently, our buddy Ray over at Thunderhead, has been talking to Sven. Maybe is that on the record or off the record? Are you guys having like these covert discussions on the band?
I didn't know they were willing to talk about it, but Sven apparently is telling me they are.
Well, that's what it looks like. Thomas is very interested in that conversation as well, and I'm just sort of going down the line with some of these. And Thomas approves of the confirmation that it was Ray that Sven was talking to. And all right, now Sven, now this is a very legitimate question. Yes, there is LinkedIn activity because we just talked about I posted a video. So maybe Sven, you should check the video out and then comment. And then voila, we actually have some activity going.
It's a brand new group. We have another group on my soon to be launched website, so there'll be 2 CRM Playaz groups, which will be merged at some point.
That's right.
So that they are available on both.
Look at this. So apparently Ray is the one forming the band. I'm learning all sorts of things. I'm glad Sven is on the job, man.
Now so am I. This was news to me because Ray put me in touch with someone else.
So is Ray kind of throwing off Sven? Is he trying to obfuscate a little bit to try to keep the secret of the band really until they just unleash on us or something?
Beats me.
We'll ask Sven next week to give us an update. And there it is. How many sessions do you have? What you guys need to take this offline.
Yeah, by the way, this is online, guys.
All right. Well, that was a nice little update for that.
Of sorts.
Thanks
for the update, Sven.
All right. So before we bring on our guests, because I actually see one of our guests is in the green room. I don't think she has partaken of any of the cronuts yet. Are there any cronuts even left in the green room at this point?
No, there's one, but it's really stale.
You don't want that one.
No, don't eat it. Don't eat it. You'll be in the hospital.
Paul is never out of tune. Come on, Thomas. You know that. He's not getting the scoop.
No, I think Sven and I have different ideas.
Look at Anchor there, giving the link to the groups. That's cool. So
Thank you.
That is the link to the group. Yeah.
He's our anchor man. Get it?
Oh man, that's actually kind of good.
Yeah, you
In a
are
very
Anchor
in a
Man.
very cheesy way.
Yes, it is.
Okay, actually, since Ankur just posted that, it kind of helps us to kind of transition to a little conversation we want to have before we bring on our guests, because this week has been 1 week in terms of following the news with Salesforce. Matter of fact, I got a clip I want to play before we get into it, and you want to hear it? Here it go. All right.
Let's go.
If I can only do this right, let me do this. And I think this is 4. I hope this is right. And then let me play it.
We've got Amgen, which is a not a particularly fast-growing drug company, replacing Pfizer, which is a not particularly fast-growing company, but is very big. We have Honeywell, which is trying to reinvent itself as a software company, but is considered often to be the doppelganger of United Technologies, which is now Raytheon. That gets the boot. And then the most incredible one, Carl, is Salesforce, and I have Mark Benioff on tonight. Salesforce is a company that most people don't know what it does. I mean, it makes it so you're a better seller of things, but also, if you go to the website, you can see it's really the way to run your company and digitize it. Exxon is atavistic. And yet, if we look, if you go back in time, in 2013, the second quarter, it was the largest company. In 2010, by the way, it's the largest of all four quarters. It was the largest. I mean, even in 2017, it was the 6th largest. And 2016, it was in the fourth quarter, it was first and second. I mean, this was a huge company, and it has been crushed. I think the dividend is very much in question. And they kept Chevron, the goal of it. Standard Oil of California. They kept the wrong one. They kept the bodies. They moved the gravestones.
All right, let me bring you back. Yeah, so that was the news about the Salesforce joining the Dow, and you got to get Mad Money Jim Cramer in there. That was some really good stuff. I think he was really broken up about Chevron staying in ExxonMobil, but that's kind of besides the point for us.
No, I'll tell you. On the other hand, he clearly has no idea what Salesforce does.
And how many times has he spoken? How many times
Right.
has he spoken with Mark Benioff over the years at this point?
It helps digitize your company. What the hell is that? Right.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. There, yeah. So most of you don't. That's why I picked that clip, because Jim Cramer doesn't know what Salesforce does, and he talks to Mark Benioff off and on. Just imagine how many people who aren't talking to Mark Benioff and don't really know. We're in this bubble, so to speak, but there's a lot of people outside the bubble that maybe did not know a thing about Salesforce until this week, because they're getting added to the Dow. And just to show you, so that was taking place at the very beginning of the week, but then the Salesforce earnings came out, and I just want to show you this chart, because this stuff is great. So this is a 5-day chart coming from Seeking Alpha, and check this out.
Oh.
Have you ever seen that is completely vertical. That 1 day jump, I've never seen anything quite like that.
It looks literally like an island came up from the bottom of the ocean. It's amazing. That's amazing. What is it? It's looks like it's about $55 or $60, right? Something along those lines.
It was basically like a 25% jump in a stock like Salesforce that has been around for a very long time.
Right.
To see, it was like this 1-2. They get added to the Dow, and then they come out with their earnings report, and they crush the earnings. And just to show you, let me see. Let me kind of back up. And one other thing I wanted to show you on this, if I can find it real quick. All right, there it is. Now, this is the Seeking Alpha kind of dashboard, and I was looking at look at the analysis in the news section of this. We already saw the numbers. I have never seen so many people so positive. Salesforce's big earnings best driven by stock market gains. Why Salesforce could double from here. Salesforce.com, brilliant quarter and reasonable valuation. Salesforce, a blowout quarter as it enters the Dow. I mean, everything. But look at the news column. They're talking about, or this person, I don't know who this person is, quite honestly, adding Salesforce to Fang, I think that's getting a little bit out of over the top, but just the sheer volume of positivity based on that 1-2 punch of getting added to the Dow and then the earnings report. I've never seen this much talk, this positive talk around Salesforce or any other CRM, pure CRM player before. Have you?
No. Look, I mean, is it terribly surprising? No. I mean, one of the things that I'm sure you've noticed, I'm not a financial analyst, so I'm not going to pretend that I can explain it.
But you can play one on our show.
Yeah, that's right. And I will. But I mean, basically, let's say this: the analysts and the journalists are very in the moment the way they operate most of the time. They're real excited today. Salesforce takes a hit in 2 days because it starts leveling a bit. Then they'll be pessimistic. I put very little stock in what, so to speak, in what they say, to be honest. And I think Mark said something that was actually kind of important to what happened. He said, this is a victory for stakeholders, right? Meaning not shareholders, stakeholders.
Right.
And to me, this is coming also on the heels of Salesforce reporting a $5 billion quarter, right? So, you're talking about a record quarter or an ARR of 20 billion right now. You're talking about being put on the Dow Jones. Look, in the grand scheme of things, Salesforce being put on the Dow Jones is important, but not that big a deal. The bigger deal is actually the fact that Salesforce, what they do and why they're so successful and why they always stand out from the pack is they figured out that fine line between, driving revenue and at the same time doing the good they need to do on the planet, meaning that their stakeholders are much broader than just the people who invest money in them or who buy their stuff. And they're aware of that. So they not only have the power of, the technology, but they have the power of the impact they have on the market as a whole. And they managed to balance it. Look, on the other hand, today, I don't know if you saw the news, but they announced 1,000 layoffs after all of this with Tableau, right? Mostly Tableau people who are apparently stunned, after they're announcing record quarters, being put on the Dow Jones and then laying off 1,000 people. And Mark's talking about realigning. And this is a guy who doesn't talk about layoffs ever. So I
remember during in the midst of the pandemic, he made the statement about everybody's jobs being safe for the next year.
Yeah, well, apparently that's not true, right? So, I mean, it's this up and down that keeps going on with these companies. It's hard to pin down the reasoning that goes on behind this. I'm sure there's a good reason in terms of the corporate thinking for Salesforce to say lay off 1,000 people. And at the same time, their public activity has been such that they've earned the goodwill of a lot of people for good reason. That said, 1,000 people get impacted. It may have some market impact. It may not. People at least are going to question, well, why are you laying off 1,000? Because if you look at every article about it, which I did, I don't know if it's everyone, but a significant number of them, they all said, well, either the person who just got laid off or the reporter, the journalist, or someone being questioned said, well, why would they do that in the middle of a record quarter and being put on the Dow? Why do that now? Right? So now the questions arise. And then,
I know why they did it now. It's, like you talk about the news cycle, they talk about the Friday evening drop where they drop stuff because they don't think a lot of people are going to be paying attention on a Friday afternoon. There has been so much good, positive information that has come out with them this week. Sliding a little potentially perceived negative information gets totally outweighed by the Dow move and the earnings and the 30% increase in stock price overnight. So it kind of makes sense that if you have a little, what would be perceived negative news to drop, you drop it in the midst of that huge up
right.
Put out there. I just want to do a couple of quick points about what we're seeing here. This is part of their earnings report. Marketing Cloud is still about, not a lot has changed with that quarter to quarter. I think it was about 0.7 billion last quarter, 0.7 this quarter. So not a lot of change, not a lot of upswing there. You see the upswing really, I think, in the platform play. And that's something that you talk about, and how I think the reason why they're moving to the DAO has more to do with they transformed from pure play CRM to customer engagement platform and customer success platform. And that has kind of greased the skids for the week we've seen with them today. What do you think about what you're seeing?
Absolutely agree. Look, they've been eyes on the prize for platforms since 2003. And again, since the day Teen Sue told me that was the day that I began looking at the idea of Salesforce as a platform, Force.com and all the acquisitions they've made and some of the investments they've made. And when we bring on Clara, we'll be talking to her about that. And you know, make no mistake about it, CRM was a means to, and has always been for them, a means to an end. It doesn't mean they're not producing quality, products or capability or solutions, but it's a means to an end. And platform has been what they've been focused on for at least 17 years of their life. So seeing that is literally no surprise, because it's the beginning of the fruits of all the labor that they put into it over all these years. It was a very wise decision on their part a long time ago, and they've never wavered for 1 second on that vision, not for a second. And no matter what people hear and think, that's where they've been focused, is being a platform. The way Teen Sue put it to me in 2003 was, we want to be the network upon which all business applications are run. That was the way.
There it is. And that's why they're in the DAO now, because they hit their $20 billion target. Remember, we were at that I call it the infamous analyst event, because that was the one where I kind of got asked not to take down that tweet. But anyway, so they went to, I think they were right around 10 billion at that time.
Yeah.
3 years later. Is it 3 years? So in 3 years they went from 10 to 20 billion. And it's because of, like you were saying, the focus on becoming not just a CRM application, but a customer engagement, customer success platform. And that is, that has kind of paved the way to the year the move that we just saw this week. All right. So the last thing I want to point out before we bring our guests in is this slide, because now I think we're going to have to start, and this comes from the Salesforce, the deck that they put together for their earnings report. I think we're officially going to have to start saying Big Five at this point.
Yeah.
Because how can you leave Adobe out if they're 0.1% behind Microsoft at this point?
We can't. We have to graduate Adobe.
Adobe is gonna, because I mean, you've been tracking that way. You started out, what was it, the Big 4.5, and then it got to be the Big 4.8.
That's where it's been hanging at. But you're right, Brent. All right, we're officially announcing as of today the Big Five. Adobe is now part of the Big Five of the customer-facing technology world.
And I've been calling it Moss, because it's always been Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, and Salesforce. Now, Amos. Because I can't do Mossa. No, that's too close to something else. I don't want to
get. I literally got you before you said that.
So we're going Amos, not Mossa. Anyway,
that's right.
It's time. I mean, when you see this, it's hard to argue against them not being in that rank now.
It's amazing, and congrats to Adobe. You made it over the 0.2 hump.
That's right. So I mean, but still, even with the newly formed if we got Fang, we got Amos now. Salesforce is still leaps and bounds ahead of everybody. It's not even. It's amazing how far ahead they are right now. Mm-hmm. All right. So with all that out of the way, we've got a couple of guests. Let me bring them to the stage.
Hey, Leslie.
Hi.
And
hey, Clara.
Look, hi.
That's a face I haven't seen in a while.
I know. It's literally been 10 years, I think.
Wow. And Leslie, yours is a face I don't think I've ever seen. So it's nice to meet you, too.
Nice to meet you. I'm trying to think of what other words you can make out of Martha or Amos.
If you can come up with some, let us know. And we will give you credit and attribution full time. right? Believe me. Also, if you can come up with something to replace omni-channel, right?
Right.
That's another one. I've been trying to replace that for years. Well, now I have a pitch at least. It's like customers think channellessly, companies have to think omni-channel. That's the only way I can even
Wow.
compromise to it.
Catchy.
Wow. So
That's not-
we've been talking about Salesforce an awful lot, and actually, it's a perfect week for you to join us, Clara, because that's how I got to know you. You were at Salesforce, and you would actually, I guess your claim to fame was kind of like being the first like business application developer for a Facebook app while you were at Salesforce, right?
That's right. I mean, it was Face Force, kind of a strange name in retrospect. But
that sounds like what Bill Belichick would say, like Instaface or Face Force or something like that.
it's so embarrassing. But remember back then, everyone was talking about mashups. So I was trying to mash up those names.
Right.
And yeah, it was just timing. I saw the belief for founding Hearsay was that the consumer internet would increasingly affect enterprise software and data would start to converge. And so that was really how we started Hearsay, was to help relationship sellers hear what was happening in their networks. And based on what we help them hear, help them say the right thing to the right person at the right time.
So for those of you who don't know, Clara is CEO of Hearsay Systems, and Leslie is the VP of Marketing for Hearsay Systems. And I mean, I've known Clara a very long time, actually, pretty much about, I guess, 10, 12 years also, right? I mean, but when you and I were first interacting, it was when you decided you were going to build a CRM application for Facebook. That was the beginning of the real interactions. And then
you write a book?
Ended up, no, that was later. That was actually a little later, right? But that's what led to, I think, Hearsay, right? It was that initial foray. Didn't quite. How did that evolve? Actually, how do you evolve from a CRM application to Facebook to let's say, a last mile technology for highly regulated systems? I mean, that's a kind of giant leap.
So I was working at Salesforce, and the same issue that's plaguing CRM today still was the issue then around adoption and how to get reps to want to do manual data entry. And so we saw it was just a problem that all of us thought about all the time at Salesforce. And yet in my personal life, I found myself spending more time than I wanted adopting and using Facebook. And I remember waking up one morning, and it was shortly after they launched Newsfeed, and it kind of dawned on me that Facebook and LinkedIn, they're sort of like personal CRMs, but instead of us updating the contact record, our contacts update us. They push us updates when something changes. And so that really got the wheels turning, and then inspired me to build Face Force as the app, and then the Facebook Era, the book that Brent mentioned, and then ultimately to found Hearsay around that idea of the consumer internet is fundamentally changing sales and marketing in the enterprise.
But one of the things, and I've been an advocate for this for over years, is I've always felt that highly regulated companies are a phenomenal opportunity, really, for a lot of technology companies, because they are highly regulated, but they need lots of guidance.
Hey, your audio is getting a bit fuzzy there. It's kind of hard to hear you.
Yeah, I know. I'm losing my voice, actually. Hold on.
No, you sounded good just then. For a minute there, you're good. You're good now.
Away.
All right.
But when you were doing Facebook for CRM for Facebook, that wasn't highly regulated, wasn't in your mind. What kind of brought you to that?
So it all started with an insurance agent, an Allstate insurance agent named Jimmy Smart. He's now retired. His son has continued on the family business in Columbus, Georgia. He became our first power user, wrote us a check every month for $50, which we immediately cashed. It was the only money that we had. And we started working with him, and we realized that a lot of the social signals that Hearsay uncovers across social media, those are life event triggers. And if you think about financial services and insurance, they are life event driven businesses. And so that's how we got into that space. And before long, word got out, and we had hundreds of insurance agents using Hearsay. And then the day came when the cease and desist letter came from corporate saying that we couldn't provide our services helping agents establish their storefront in Facebook. We couldn't do the lead form because of this laundry list of compliance requirements. And just as we were about to walk away from financial services, my co-founder, Steve, he's like, well, wait a minute. Let's read the regulations. Let's understand them. And so we combed through, and it turns out that regulation is perfect. It's well suited for software because it's just a bunch of rules, right? It's actually literally the easiest thing to codify in the world. And so we spent 3 years building out the FINRA SEC insurance compliance platform for communications for insurance agents, bankers, advisors, and that has really catapulted us into everything else.
So, all right. So even though you're doing this, it's still, let's say, an underserved market, really. I mean, as far as I know, honestly, there are 1 or 2 other companies who I'll call it peripherally do it, meaning it's part of other things, but it's not a focus, right? You're the only company I actually know that has a core focus on doing it, which is to your great credit and advantage, really. Okay, now this, Leslie, this is for you though, because on the other hand, given that it's an underserved market, given that you are dealing with people or companies that are literally can only go so far in what they do, meaning they're at some point their constraint gets kicks in. And on the other hand, you're literally marketing to them, right? And you're trying to figure out messaging, you're trying to figure out how to impact them, you're trying to figure out how to get them to trust you, which is of course the big duty of marketing. How do you do it? I mean, how do you even focus that kind of marketing? It's an unusual problem for a marketer to have.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it fun, actually, is that they're sophisticated buyers, and they have these significant constraints that they have to work with. And I think that my job in particular is to show what they can achieve and what they need to let their advisors achieve with our software. And what we found, and you know this from your personal life, is it's the relationship between the advisor and the client that matters. That's what keeps somebody at a financial institution. Yeah, you can send emails all day, you can have a great chat bot, and that is important. But those one-to-one personal relationships are really what retains your customers at the end of the day. And so empowering your folks in the field on the front line to do that is critical. And so you've got to find a way to do that compliantly. And so we make that as easy for them as possible and show them how it can be done.
Do you find any limitation yourself on what you can say as a marketer because of compliance?
Not necessarily in our marketing to our clients, but in how we coach and guide them for how they use the tools, how they configure the supervision workflows, for example, and just making sure, more in the delivery, I would say, in helping them set up things properly so that they're getting the right amount of feedback and have the right visibility into what their people in the field are saying. And so they can monitor that in a doable way and a careful way and still enable those results that they need. Those are their salespeople.
So let me jump in. And how are these conversations, how are your interactions changed since COVID hit and since we're in the midst of it? And I want to also get to the point where we're talking about your relationship with Salesforce and potentially how that impacts some of the things that you've already talked about.
Well, I'll start with COVID. So really, that has been a catalyst for many digital tools, including, of course, the communication tools that we provide in the last mile. And we have definitely just seen an increase in demand for what we provide. And it is, part of it is just the advisors are overwhelmed. Really, right now, they're kind of on the front lines of helping people deal with this crisis from a financial perspective. And insurance, it's the same thing. All of these, as Clara said, it's a life event type business, and there's just more life events happening now. And so you have just a heavy load on those financial advisors, but it's also an opportunity for them to really get in there and have those very important conversations with their clients that are so meaningful to that relationship, and may also result in business, of course. And so in that environment, the firms that we work with are looking to give more assistance and more support to their folks. And so that has been really a catalyst for many to want to do more with us, to want to empower their advisors and to make them more efficient, because they are overwhelmed at the same time. So it's like great opportunity, but also almost too much coming at them.
So, all right, let me come back to Clara. Two things before we get to the Salesforce thing. So one of the things you talk about a lot is, and I've heard elsewhere too, is of course last mile. Now, typically from when I hear last mile, I think it's like the final steps till you put in the electric chair. So, it's not like something. So, it kind of makes me a little queasy when I hear that. Hey, we deal with the last mile. And I think, or at least, like, does that mean I get a last meal before I have to talk to you, right? So can you actually tell? Look, there's a lot of people out there who don't know what that even means. Okay, so Clara, why don't you start and kind of give us an explanation of what that actually means?
Yeah, so let me just put it in context. If you look at where enterprise digital spend has gone over the last decade, and this is true in financial services, insurance, it's true probably in most industries, it's gone into digital automation and digital self-service. And so often when you hear personalization and digital marketing, what is being referred to is automated personalization. So ad targeting, getting another spam email from a company. That's not really personalization. That's kind of a hijacking of the term. Like, no one gets an email from the Gap and thinks, oh my gosh, this is written just for me. I feel so moved, right? There's certain things about it that appeal to us as a segment, but ultimately it's not really for Clara. It's for millions of people who shopped in a particular area before. So when we talk about last mile, we're talking about getting from that 50,000 foot level of mass personalization down to what Leslie just said, the one-to-one personalization, where it's Paul, your advisor, working with Clara, your client. We've been working together for a long time. My parents, when I tell you that one of them is sick, like we talk about it. It's an emotional, trusted advisor relationship. And that is really where digital engagement has been lacking in financial services and elsewhere.
So how does that actually work in your technology exactly?
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, you talked about Teen earlier, Teen Zoe. What he taught me is that great products are like an onion that you peel back layer by layer, right? You don't want to present everything all at once. That's feature overload. You want to pull people in, and the more they use it, the more advanced users can uncover more and more secrets and great things about the onion. So usually when customers come and start consuming the Hearsay onion, they usually start with compliance. It's generally because they know they have insurance agents out there, they have advisors out there, they have clients clamoring to be able to text with their advisor or wanting to connect with their advisor on LinkedIn. And there's a host of regulatory requirements around both of those things, texting and social selling. And so usually that's how they start. Once they start using it, they realize, okay, wait a minute, I can actually use this to supercharge my business. As Leslie mentioned, during the pandemic, you can imagine in the month of March, you're a financial advisor, your phone was ringing off the hook. Everyone was freaking out about their college savings plans, their retirement portfolios, the market volatility. And think about, as an advisor, right? Usually have a book of business, probably like 50 to 100 clients. In some cases, if you're in insurance, you have 1,000 customers you're dealing with. And all of these people are calling you, and you know that you need to get back to them, but you know that you can't possibly get back to everyone in the amount of time that they would want to expect, right?
Hey, I want to Oh,
Or-
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to, I got a good question in there from Anand, and I wanted to see if Clara and Leslie wanted to tackle that. What is success? What is a success metric now that is focused for advisors that are being magnified by hearsay?
Yes, so I'm going to answer that question in the context of this COVID thing. So think about the power of text messaging in this point. So at that point in time, our team started partnering with each customer we had, and we said, there's got to be a way we can deliver that authentic experience at scale. And so we started experimenting, and something that worked really well was texting all of an advisor's clients from that advisor, right? Saying, hey, I just saw that you tried to call. I will get back to you, right? It buys that person a couple of days, but it acknowledges that the person has tried to call their advisor. And so all of this goes back to Anand's question around, at the end of the day, right, there's leading indicator metrics you want to look at, like the number of calls, the average call duration, which clients have you talked to the most, which clients haven't you talked to in over 120 days, right? That you better call those people if you want to stay on as their advisor. But ultimately, where the rubber meets the road for any of us, it's about business metrics, client acquisition, sales cycle length, client retention, client upsell and cross-sell, and wealth management. That a lot of it has to do with what share of wallet do you have of that client, and can you compel them to move their money that they currently have with Merrill Lynch to come over to you at Morgan Stanley, so that you're managing more of their assets.
Okay, makes sense.
I wanted to jump in and kind of go in a slightly different direction based on a number of conversations I've had over this entire year, really. And it kind of hit me because of this comment or question that Alan Bergson from Freshworks threw in there, and it's the term ambient kind of jogged this for me. So, I mean, you've been a CEO, a founding CEO for what, over a decade now, right?
Yeah, 11 years.
That's a good thing, no? I think it's a good thing. And you've raised money, and we're going to talk about some of the things that you're doing recently with Salesforce, and maybe this is kind of a bridge to that conversation. But I had a chance to moderate a panel right before the pandemic shut down all physical events at a conference called the Ambient Experience Summit that was put on by the folks over at Constellation Research with Ray Wong and our player in residence, El Nicole, who is giving some nice comments here. But the panel that I moderated was one that had basically the focus was on kind of the ongoing challenges and difficulties that female founding tech CEOs have had. And one of the things that was really kind of a shocking number was the very, very, very small percentage of funding money, investment money that go to founding female tech CEOs. But you were out there, you're kind of like an OG without being old. I didn't know how to say that, but could you just talk a little bit about that? Could you talk about your kind of experience and what you're seeing? Have you seen a decent amount of progress in that area? I mean, it sounds like just the number doesn't sound like it. But what do you see, having gone through the experiences, and do you see some hope? Do you see some potential for more investment money coming to female CEOs, tech CEOs?
Yeah, I mean, fundraising is hard regardless of your gender. I certainly have more than my fair share of stories. We'd be here all day if I shared them with you about when people made assumptions about me because I was a woman. I don't take it personally, but it is the reality. I do think we've made a lot of progress as an industry, and it all starts with who gets to decide on investments, right? Because I think there's a lot of natural tendency for us to establish faster rapport with people who are more similar to us. That's kind of human nature. And so the more diverse you can get the investment teams at these venture capital firms and as angel investors, the better. And so like for me, for example, I've started doing some angel investing in the last few years on my own, as well as part of Sequoia Scouts. And if you look at my portfolio, it's very diverse, right? Because I just tend to know a very broad cross section of people. And so as we start to see more women partners, more Black partners at venture capital firms, and starting their own angel funds and super angel. You're starting to see that reflect also in terms of who gets funding, whether it's seed, Series A, or later stage.
So
I look forward to seeing more progress in that area, because there's some great. I mean, we know a number of great female tech CEOs who are struggling with some of this, and it'd be great to see them get some of the opportunities that traditionally go to others outside of that particular demographic. So.
I agree.
Well, there's also one other area which is not really gender specific, but is more age specific, that you actually are a standout in, which is you, as far as I know, and I don't actually know for sure, you're the youngest person at least I know of, who sits on a board of directors of a major company, Starbucks. Now, that's actually pretty phenomenal, because usually it's old farts like me, who are on those kind of things. So, but the thing is that in your case, you've been on it now for actually what, 7 years, maybe
9,
6, 9 years. All right, so you were really young when you were on it, like super young, and that's actually a tremendous achievement. It's not small at all. I know you don't talk about it too much, but at the same time, can you give people a sense of kind of how that evolved and what it meant? And because it's pretty meaningful to a lot of people. Look, I know a lot of people who are, let's say, older and well established in the tech industry, who are about to leave it, and the one thing they keep talking about is, do you know of any board positions? And it's usually at other tech companies. Not this is a whole different league when you're talking about a major non-tech company, actually, whether they use tech or not. Although I will tell you, if you have any influence, their coffee still kind of sucks, right? They definitely need to improve it.
To that, we'll give you a coffee tasting.
You'll have to really make. Let's put it this way: you have a long way to go to convince me that I should go back there. But I'm more your achievement than the coffee at Starbucks. That's a barista issue and a equipment issue, not a board of directors issue.
Or it could be a palate issue, Paul. I'm just saying.
Nope. No, I can tell you that. I'm standing by my statement. So fill us in, though. I mean, tell us about that story, because I think that's a phenomenal achievement, and you should. I wish you were actually, to be perfectly honest, I wish you were talking about it more out there.
Thank you. That's really a nice compliment. So yeah, I'll be honest, I had no idea what public boards did when I got that recruiter call at the age of 28. And it's really credit to Howard Schultz, the retired founder, and that board, of saying, wait a minute, we need to stay relevant with future generations. We need to treat digital and technology as a first-class citizen, and at the board level, not delegate it down to an intern. Right? This needs to be a core part of our company's strategy now and for the next 50, 100 years. And so it was that they drove that criteria, and their criteria led them to me. So that was kind of the demand side. In terms of my qualifications, that was right around the time that my book came out, right? The Facebook era. It was published in it was written about in the New York Times, and there was a lot of buzz. I did an interview with you, Brent, on your blog. I did an interview with you, Paul. I mean, there was a lot of buzz around that and Hearsay's founding. And so I think in terms of those who are interested in joining a board, make sure that your knowledge and your expertise is known. Blog about it. Make sure that you're sharing your thought leadership on Medium, doing podcasts and videos like this, posting on LinkedIn. And that's how you build your brand as a director, and to be known for something that is demanded, whether it's being the digital expert or the China expert or the finance expert. I mean, there's different profiles of directors that are sought after.
That was perfect.
Great. All right. But we got to talk about the Salesforce stuff now, because we're running out of time. We want to get that in there. So tell us, each of you, whoever wants to take the mantle and run with this, what's going on with you and Salesforce? What's the deal here?
Well, I'd be happy to kick it off. Hopefully I'm sounding better now that I kicked my kids off of online school.
Hey,
Tell
we
them
like
we're
these
sorry.
kids, in the background,
That's right.
They're
Tell them
not,
we're
they're
sorry,
not
though.
upset. Nothing to apologize for. Well, as we were mentioning before, Clara was kind of explaining, your experience with a bank or an insurance firm. There's sort of the automated piece of it that we all expect to receive our emails to our name. But then the other very important part of the experience, and we believe the most important part, is that authentic, personal, one-to-one connection you have with your relationship manager. And so the partnership with Salesforce is to tie that all together, because of course they have Marketing Cloud doing an excellent job of the automated marketing, but it's not necessarily connected to what your folks in the field are doing and saying unless you connect those systems together. So by having Hearsay and Salesforce integrated with one another, you can connect those conversations. So you're capturing what's happening in the field, in the one-to-one interactions, and at the same time able to see those corporate originated messages at the same time and tie that customer experience together. So it's really a closing of the loop, if you will, of the client journey to make it really a cohesive system.
So Clara, do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, just to talk more specifically, if you think about social selling, if you think about what success looks like for salespeople, it is getting prospects and customers on the phone and then down the funnel and this conversion funnel, and then doing that over and over again, right? If you have more stuff to sell them or you want to retain that customer. And these days it's harder than ever to get prospects on the phone. And if you think about what it takes to get a prospect on the phone, it's not continuously dialing the number until they cave and pick up. Right? People will just block you. It turns out, and we have the data to show this, that the way that a financial advisor or an insurance agent or a banker gets a prospect on the phone, and generally it's an existing bank customer that they want to upsell with a relationship manager, it starts actually with that banker or advisor having a terrific LinkedIn profile, right? Because I do have an account with Chase. I hit a certain account minimum. Suddenly, Paul, you're calling me. I'm not just going to pick up the phone. I'm not just going to reply to your email. I'm going to go to LinkedIn. I'm going to Google you. I'm going to Google you and go to LinkedIn. And I'm going to see, does Paul work with other tech executives? Does he know how to handle stock options and the tax favorability? Does he understand entrepreneurs? If so, I want to talk to you for a really long time. I have a lot of questions. If you're not even on LinkedIn, or you're on, but there's not any information that would cause me to believe in your credibility, I'm not going to waste my time. And all of us are this way with any service provider. And so understanding that, and I know you hate the word, that omni-channel nature of the sales and marketing journey, that's critical. And then if you think about so at this point, say I decide that you are someone I want to talk to, again, you're not going to get me when you call me, right? Chances are I'm going to be busy. I'll be doing a podcast, or I'll be on my email or doing something. And so texting is also a critical precursor step to getting somebody on the phone, right? Just to say, hey, this is Paul calling. Give me a call when you're free. We all do it in our personal lives and with the people who matter. And so that kind of goes hand in hand with CRM, just like in the 90s, right? It's CTI, computer telephony integration. These days, people are mobile. Even during the pandemic, we're all on our mobile phones. And what Hearsay is a compliant mobile CTI, and mobile CTIs and CRM kind of just go together.
Hey, let's get a couple of these questions answered. I can't believe I'm actually going to put a question up from Bob Fagel, but I guess, I'll do that.
You got to do
Little
it.
inside joke in there. But anyway, so Bob is asking, how is the connection between Hearsay going to change how the Marketing Cloud listens and communicates, or do you see it augmenting those functions?
It is win-win, right? If you think about the role of marketing versus the role of sales, marketing's role is to generate demand and nurture until the person is ready to buy. When they're ready to buy, it's time for a financial advisor, your insurance agent, your banker to pick up the phone and call, right? And so that handoff is something we're working very closely with Salesforce on right now. Is at a certain point, right? And we're going to test this, A/B test this over time. Maybe it's 3 website visits and 2 email opens and whatever combination it is. We are going to pass that hot lead over to sales on a silver platter. They're already using our mobile telephony. We're going to generate a click-to-call mobile notification on their Hearsay phone, and they're going to click on it or not, and we'll know either way. And the moment that they click, Hearsay's telephony is going to connect the call. We'll know if the call connected. We'll know the duration of the call and be able to log that automatically back to both core CRM as well as Marketing Cloud.
And by the way, stop marketing to them at the same time.
Right. Yeah, no more automation once sales is engaged.
All right, we got one last question from our player in residence, L. Nicole France. Leslie and Clara, are you seeing better communication and coordination between sales and marketing where Hearsay is connecting the systems?
I can take that one. I think I have seen that the most effective users of our system are very tightly coordinated and aligned in how they use our systems. I'm thinking about a sales and marketing leader that I recently spoke with at Morgan Stanley, and they are so aligned in how they handle those different roles and the different ways that they can optimize the experience for their users, that they have, that drives an incredible adoption rate, very successful users. And so it's kind of a positive cycle. So I do think that is a critical success factor, whether we drive it or they had it to begin with, and that begets better results. I'm not sure which came first, the chicken or the egg, but it's definitely a key success factor in the ways we see our clients succeeding with our system.
All right. I think kind of got like 2 last questions.
Well, I know what one better be.
Right. It is. So, Brent, I'll let you ask that one.
I have a question too, by the way.
What was that?
Uh-oh.
I have a question too.
All right. Well,
Uh-oh.
okay. Well, it's fair enough. I'll tell you what. You ask yours because we're going to end the show with our 2. So, go ahead.
I've always wanted to be a playa. Does being on this show mean that Leslie and I are both now playas?
Yes, it does. It's as simple as that. I mean,
well, wait a minute. It still depends. It still depends on the way you answer our last question.
Well, the way you answer the one Brent's going to ask. The one I'm going to ask doesn't impact your playerdom. So here's the thing. You guys have a band?
Oh boy.
You guys have a band? I Hearsay band.
We don't.
Oh no. I don't know if you weren't in on it, but we have BYOB 2020 going on right now. Playaz sponsored thing. That's Bring Your Own Band 2020, and 13 companies are in. Salesforce is in. SAP is in. Oracle is in. Episerve is in. Zoho's in. Pegasystems in. Genesis is in. I can keep going, but you get the idea. And we have 13. We have 13 companies participating. We have room for 2 more bands, and this is heavy duty. It's the first corporate band competition since 2011, when Fortune magazine ran one at the Cleveland Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And the winners, by the way, were the Raving Daves of PeopleSoft. They won it. And the award we're giving, if they give us permission, I realize I probably should say that since I haven't asked them yet, right, is we're going to call it the Raving Daves Cup, because they're like iconic. Not only did they win that competition, but they were good enough to play at the Fillmore West. Okay, that's how good a band they were.
You know what?
So
we don't have a band right now, but just to show you how agile we are, we can pull a band together.
I'll send you the details, and you got a couple weeks to still be able to participate.
No problem.
Well,
you got to produce 3, and you got to produce 3 music videos as a result.
Oh, that's easy.
Right.
So one of our engineers went to Berklee College of Music, so I feel very confident that we'll be able to.
Well, that's good, but let me tell you, you're up against, for example, one of the bands has the former sax player from SNL two of them are being produced by one by a guy who owned a record label, and the other one is produced things like The Who. Okay, so you're up against some heavy hitters here.
All right, I'm going to change our hiring requirements right now for all of our.
What instrument? So I'll send you the details. You let me know. All right, now the closing, most important question of all.
Yeah, and quite honestly, we had a really great conversation with
Yes.
the dynamic duo of UX design at Oracle last week. Great conversation. It just went tragically wrong with the last question, and so I will ask you.
This is the same question.
This is very important here. All right, so do you guys do you follow football? Do you like football?
I've been told to never try to use a sports analogy because it does not go well.
I'm similarly out of my league. No pun intended. I don't know anything about football.
No, this is
That's
actually to your advantage.
This is a good,
perfect.
safe answer. So
Good.
that means the previous question you had about being on the show, does that make you a player? Combined with your current answer to this question, yes, it does.
It's a hardcore yes.
It's an absolute yes. There's only really one bad, tragically terrible answer to that question. And that is, and if you ask Bob Fagel, you will know what that is. If you were a New England Patriots fan, if that were, or if you know a New England Patriots fan, if there's a family relative who's a New England Patriots fan, you could be in trouble. But stay with your current answer.
All I know about the New England Patriots is Deflategate.
There it is.
Good.
All right, you are officially.
Wow. You are definitely on the right side. Right side of history here. You're on the right side of history.
You are both welcomed into the CRM Playaz family.
And we'll be back. You will be back on again.
My last Southwest flight, they said if you're accidentally, your life vest should become inflated, just call for Tom Brady and he'll come over and deflate it for you.
Wow. All right, you guys are really going hard now, and I love every second of it.
Wow. We might elevate your status to general.
Sorry,
in the
Bob.
Army.
Bob, you are totally wrong about that statement. Yeah, just say no, Bob. Just say no.
He meant no.
Oh, boo. Go
Yeah.
keep booing. Boo.
It's okay.
All right. Well, we've had such a great conversation.
That
And I'm
was
so glad
awesome.
that it ended the right way, too. This is great. But all sincerity, it's really a pleasure to initially meet you, Leslie. It's great to meet you for the first time.
You
And
as well.
Clara, it's a decade in between is just way too long.
I agree. This is awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, it's great to have you guys. And with that,
I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And on behalf of our new player friends, Clara and Leslie, we are the CRM Playaz, and two of us will be back tomorrow talking sports. I guess the other two will not be talking sports. But at least,
Or it would be very entertaining if they were on trying to.
well, in the meantime, we will see you tomorrow and have a great rest of the day.